Welcome to Interviews from Quito. This week we'll be talking to renowned contemporary visual artist Luigi Stornaiolo. Stornaiolo was born in Quito, Ecuador, and he is considered one of the leading painters in Latin America and around the world. Inspired by cartoons, sports, and music, his approach has been described as a new social realism. His paintings depict a vivid and unpolished view of South American society, from the poor to the elite. His sense of humor and deep vision of his subjects' inner desires reveal their darkest feelings on canvas. Stornaiolo has won the Eugenio Espejo Award for the Best Artist 2011 given by President Rafael Correa Delgado. His paintings have become highly collectible around the world. He's been recognized and exhibited throughout South America, Europe, Australia, and the United States. Today, we talk to him about his life, his art, and the future. Luigi, you became interested in painting very early age. How did this happen?
Y lo curioso es que yo fui músico 10 años, verás.
The odd thing is that I was a musician for 10 years. I did theater for another 2 years. And then I was a painter at age 20, 21 years. It's been very interesting because it is beautiful, although not applicable. You can't see it in retrospective, and worse even because you can see yourself as having been talented, because there's no chance to go back and see. You're driving downhill in neutral with a flat tire, having crashed, and no driving license, no rearview mirror, desperate.
When you were still a teenager, you became interested in caricature. Tell us about this early work.
I remember that. My father helped me a lot. He worked for the newspaper, The Latest News. I began drawing cartoons of athletes, football players, and my father would publish my work. I was getting 2 to 5 sucres for each cartoon. I was fascinated, although at that age I was a stupid kid and I always liked portraying myself that way.
Después me hice músico, esto fue interesante. A los 15 pude tocar la guitarra.
What else could I do? I became a musician, which was interesting. I was playing the guitar pretty well when I was 15. I also played bass guitar.
Después me iba a pie al fútbol también, un individuo así normal.
I sang on television in '68. I played soccer. I was a normal person. I was miserable, but happy.
Desde luego que sí creo, ya ha habido cultores bravos en la historia.
Of course, there have been some brave cartoonists in history. But today it's like he throws a stone upward or spits into the air. It's a delicate thing to venture into cartoons, to satirize, to mock a person. It is risky to speak of this after the unfortunate incidents in France.
One of the most significant moments in your life was a trip to Italy when you were a teenager. In the late 70s. How did this trip influence you, your artistic career?
Fui a los museos y pude ver cuadros de ahí, primera vez que me impactaron, o cuadros en el Museo Capodimonte de Nápoles.
I went to the museums and I observed the paintings there. I was impressed for the very first time at the Campo de Monte Museum in Naples. I was able to see beautiful paintings by Tiziano Bruegel. I was moved by all of this. But when I came back, I became a musician. My thinking was that I needed to develop all of this. I was fascinated by music, however, I chose neither one nor the other. I continued venturing, looking into myself, and later, in the year 1978, I met Nelly and began painting portraits of her.
Ya no caricaturas, sino retrato directo así, a cultivar el proceso de la técnica del óleo así, ¿no?
That's when I began to cultivate the process of oil techniques. There were hopes, and attempting to be a seducer and a romancer, and wanting to paint. But it's difficult to look back at all this.
Lo lindo es que la pintura después ha sido seria y
The beauty is that painting then became serious, and it seemed as if one could nourish it. But I never considered myself a painter, or even worse, an artist. Now everyone is an artist. It's okay. In the end, that was the idea, that everyone become an artist. And great timing, although it is not good to boast about or claim something you don't have. But that's where we're headed.
Jactarse de algo que no vale la pena. Pero ahí vamos.
Your work has been defined as new social realism. What is this use of labels? It's been good to you as a painter, as a life?
Refiere, creo, a la incompetencia de la especie humana, del espécimen.
I believe it refers to the incompetence of the human species. For a cartoonist, it's like mockery, satire, which is seen like the behavior of humankind. It's the noisiest and the one that destroys the planet the most, and to express it and let it out. But in and of itself, one is not decent enough to say anything.
Pero uno no es digno de decir nada, no hay chance de peor mandarse la parte, porque tímidamente uno atreve pero arruga.
There is no chance to take on the role, because one timidly dares and then backs away. The qualifications and specifications have widened for any artistic tendency possible within pictorial canons, but that is what cinema is for. I believe cinema gathers all the possibilities of theater, painting, and music. All the acting is possible in cinema. In fact, I was invited as an extra in a movie this Saturday. This is another anecdote, but cinema would be more successful in these areas.
Un cuento, pero el cine es lo que más éxito tiene, creo.
In your own words, can you tell us, Luigi, what do you look for in your paintings? What is it inspires you?
La inspiración era fundamental, la convocatoria que te ofrezca pintar, y es lo que ahora...
Inspiration was fundamental. The call that moves you to paint, and this is what I am lacking right now, because I'm painting with my left hand, which is more complicated. But it is not like the beauty of a woman, where love is the way to praise it. I said that art should be at the service of glorification of divinity. So I went to Mass every Sunday for 17 years. I believed in those things. But the dialogue changes the next day, and then you don't want to remember. The best virtue of the mind is the ability to forget.
Tell us about your relationship with other artists from your generations in the early 80s in Ecuador.
Amigos todos, y se cultivaba ese respeto y esa coleguez.
Friends to all those who nourished respect and camaraderie. I had colleagues 10 years older than me. They were great painters here. The Quito Art School, for example, was possibly the first one in America. It was founded in 1680, although at that time Europe was on top. But there were always good painters, and that was cultivated here.
Y aquí se cultivaba eso, y yo creía y me arrimé a la posibilidad de entenderme pintor.
I believed that, and I approached the possibility of understanding myself as a painter, which in itself was already an achievement, because you didn't want to confront yourself from a moral or religious perspective. What I do know, and you speculate and hesitate with a capital H, have fun, have great fun. How wonderful it is to have fun.
Qué rico vacilo.
You admire Goya, Bosch. It's obvious in reference in your work. Tell us about this artist that you admire.
Tenían esta característica de...
They had that characteristic of satirizing the behavior of the species. For me, Goya and Lucientes were the greatest. Born in Fuendetodos, province of Zaragoza, in the year 1790, the greatest artist in history had already existed, so I studied the history of art, the painters of the 16th and 17th centuries, Italians who I visited at the museums, and I traveled.
After this, you traveled to Australia. Tell us about that experience in your life as a painter.
I exhibited my work in Australia at the Doncaster Gallery, but it was very difficult to confront the artistic circle there because they were at their peak. At that time, Sidney Nolan was the greatest proponent. In essence, Australia has a very good circle of artists, and I thought they were the best. Native Australian art, Aboriginal art was the best as well. Australia was really nice.
You exhibit in many galleries in Quito and all over the world during the 1980s. How was the art market back then?
Como que se constituyen el objeto de el billete ya determina todo.
In a way, they come together as an object, and money determines everything. This condition is so miserable that I don't want to accept it. But they bet on a winner, based on statistics, negotiations, and prizes. Therefore, they always bet on the winner.
Para la plata, sí. El mercantilismo estaba reñido con el arte, yo entendía. Y después dice también en Cuenca hice unas 7 exposiciones.
Commerce and art always had a contentious relationship, as far as I understood. However, I had exhibits in Cuenca, Guayaquil, with the support of my first wife, Nelly.
Respaldo de Nelly, mi primera mujer. Y es delicado referir porque ya se emparenta con la historia.
But really, this is a delicate subject because it's related to that history and that hysteria. I don't really need to keep rambling on about all this.
In recent years, because of your illness, you started painting with your left hand. Was that a new beginning in your life?
Poco a poco ha ido degenerando la vaina y ya considerar enfermedades. Nunca he querido saber.
My arm has degenerated little by little, and I've never wanted to consider it a handicap, although that's what it is. This has affected me. The 32 years I've been painting are divided into the first 10 years, the 10 second, and the last 12 years. I've done nothing these last 2 years, although I've been painting again these past few months. I've alternated a little bit each time, and my work has been recognized. When I do nothing, the youth think I'm teaching others. It's not worth it to believe this. But through Facebook, I do motivate them to paint.
Creen que yo soy un maestro y no vale ver eso, pero en Facebook contesto siempre que con ánimo para ellos, ¿no? Y que pinten. Dejé de filmar también y todo. Este mano estaba ya torcida, hace 3 años ya era torcido, pero si estaba, y he recuperado un poco la vaina, pero no se sabe muy bien el castigo que me dijeron los neurólogos por las enfermedades. Yo hice recorridos a 10 años buscando la salida, pero seguía y ahí pintaba más todavía y creía que la esperanza es la forma normal del delirio.
At that point, I was still painting a lot more.
Could you give us some advice for a young painter?
I put painting in acrylics with my left hand.
Thank you, Luigi, for your time. We wish you the best for
but it's better with my
2015.
right hand.
And I hope you keep
20
painting.
years with my right hand,
and we treasure
10 years with my left.
the great work you have done in the last 30 years.
Muchas gracias, Andy, y yo estoy encantado y gracias y disculpen por... Gracias por tanto y disculpen por tan poco porque yo no
Painting
puedo
is something
decir
beautiful.
mayor cosa y estoy agradecido.
My name is Andy Sebastia. This has been Interviews from Quito. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you for everything. And please, I hope you'll excuse me because I can't